there's no better way to tell you than to say God's been good in my life. I feel blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to sleep each night. And though I've had my share of hard times, I wouldn't change them if I could, 'cause through it all, God's been good. Times we play and I can see that I've cried some bitter tears, but I felt His arms surround me as I faced my greatest fears. You see, I've had more gains than losses, and I've known more joy than hurt as His grace rolled down upon me undeserved. For God's been good in my life. I feel blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to sleep each night. And though I've had my share of hard times, I wouldn't change them if I could, 'cause through it all, God's been good. For God has sent my Father, my Savior and my friend. His love was my beginning, and His love will be my end. I could spend forever trying to tell you everything He is, but the best way that I can say it is this: God's been good in my life. I feel so blessed beyond my wildest dreams when I go to sleep each night. And though I've had my share of hard times, I wouldn't change them if I could, 'cause through it all, God's been good.
Things come our way. We never know kung anong darating sa atin, but we can all take everything as coming from the Lord. Dumarating sa atin, dumadaan sa atin dahil the Lord just wants for us to get to the bottom line of how we should be through all these times. Magandang maganda mga kapatid na ang lahat ng ating ginagawa ay nanggagaling sa isang mapagpasalamat na kalooban. Simply because of the grace of God, marami tayong dapat ipagpasalamat sa Kanya.
Kung ako ay magkakaroon ng COVID, makakontract because of what I do, it's because the Lord allowed it. Ako po si Jehan Angeles at ako po ay miyembro ng Lighthouse Bible Baptist Church Tatalon. Currently working po as the Executive Director of the Philippine Medical Association. Ako ay napunta dito hindi isang aksidente sa PMA. Dino-consider ko to na bilang ministry ko sa Ecclesia because it's a ministry of equipping and of service also. Malaki at maraming naging challenges ang PMA ng pagsimula ng pandemic. Noong March pa lang, naging malaki ang demand for the supplies ng personal protective equipment dahil kinulang na po ang mga supplies na to all over the country, especially in NCR. Kaya ang PMA naging sentro muna ng pag-purchase ng mga donasyon at naging sentro ng distribution din para sa aming mga component societies in different regions in the country. At malaking pasalamat ko sa lahat ng naging tulong, of course, of the Great Lighthouse Foundation dahil sila naging katuwang ko dito sa mga other services, no, hindi lamang sa mga material na bagay na lahat na ibinibigay ng Lighthouse Bible Baptist Church, pero pati yung sa pagtulong sa pag-distribute, pag-drive, yan ay naging parte ng buong eklesiya para sa Philippine Medical Association at talagang malaki ang pasalamat po ng aming organization sa ating simbahan or sa ating eklesiya. No, nandun na yung takot ko din na paano kung ako din naman yung tamaan ng COVID hanggang sa dumating din yung panahon na talagang kahit yung driver namin hindi makatawid coming from the province dahil binigyan ako ng skill ng Panginoon para mag-drive. No, ako ang naging driver pansamantala during the ECQ, papunta ng bangko, no, mga runner, pagbili ng mga grocery para sa aming mga empleyado at yung mga for donations. At time na talagang umiiyak na rin ako habang nagde-drive na parang tama ba to Panginoon na sumusuong ako dito sa ganitong laban na alam ko na meron din akong underlying sickness or disease sa aking puso na baka maging trigger din para ako ay mag-succumb dito sa virus na ito. Pero talagang naging biyaya ng Panginoon ay naging mayaman dahil sinustain niya ako hanggang sa panahon na ito. Kung magkaroon man ako nito, mamatay man ako dahil dito, it's because the Lord allowed it. At I would rather die doing this kind of ministry or service. No? Dahil naging pagpapala ako, nagamit ako, I was able to do abundantly, na-equip talaga ako dito. I have really no reason to be not thankful to the Lord. And despite all these, naging totoo pa rin ang Panginoon, naging faithful pa rin siya sa atin, sinustain niya tayo, yung kanyang biyaya ay non-stop. I cannot be thankful enough also for these daily coming together na ginagawa ni Pastor para sa ating lahat. Hindi ako nag-miss ng mga daily coming together. No, sabi nga ni Pastor Ruben in one of his coming togethers, the grace of God is greater than anything we experience in this world, in this life. And despite the pandemic, we remain to be His people, we remain to be His work. Ito yung isa sa mga paraan na talagang we were drawn closer to the Lord. Dito rin daw kumukuha talaga ng lakas at ng upliftment.
So that if this world will appreciate the Lord Jesus Christ, ang nakikita ng tao ay yung eklesiya, the body of people. Kung ma-appreciate yung virtues ng ating Panginoon, yun din na nagpapakita. Pero pag pinagsama-sama ang buong eklesiya, ay yun ay pinaghahati-hati at nakikita may pag-ibig dito, may kapayapaan dito, may kagalakan dito. At lahat ng virtues na kanyang ipinakita while He was on the cross, yan po ay hindi lang para maisip natin, kundi magawa natin. So we have everything that we need to know in regards to what we should do bilang eklesiya because the Lord Jesus Christ taught us and He showed us. Tayo po ay mahigit ng 150 days since this community quarantine started at maraming uri pa ng quarantine. And the country's fight against the COVID-19 ay nagpapatuloy at ang impact po ng pandemyang ito ay nakaapekto na sa marami. It affected our overall health condition, at hindi lang yan, kundi ang ating ekonomiya, maraming mga challenges at lahat tayong mga Pilipino, mga kapatid, at lahat ng sektor, apektado sa lipunang ito. Mayaman man o mahirap, kung pwede natin tawagin ganyan, yung may mga edad, no, at mga bata, lahat tayo ay apektado.
Tama po yan, Bishop. At ang krisis po na ito ay sanhi ng stress sa maraming mga Pinoy. At actually, interestingly, Bishop, naglabas ng survey results ang SWS nito lamang Hulyo. At ayon po sa data, nearly 90% ng mga Pilipino ay nakaranas ng stress na dulot ng pandemyang ito. Of course, yan ay dahil sa dala ng financial problems, mga takot na magkasakit, at pati na rin ang kakulangan sa essentials gaya ng pagkain para sa buong pamilya.
Manood ka nga lang ng news. Wala, ano ka na, madedepress ka na, mai-stress ka na, tapos magso-social media ka pa yung buong araw. Lalo talaga, hindi gaganda ang mukha mo. Ano? Maraming napaka bad news, mga fake news sa kapaligiran natin. At kaya sa ating episode ngayon ay medyo pumili tayo ng magandang mga balita, no? Yung mga kapaki-pakinabang sa atin. Kaya yan ang ating pag-uusapan, no? Mga proyekto na mayroon ng ating gobyerno. Okay? At sisimulan natin yan sa isang diskusyon sa Director General ng Anti-Red Tape Authority na walang iba kundi si Director General Attorney Jeremiah Belhica. Ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng ARTA o Anti-Red Tape Authority, no? At ano nga ba ang kanilang mga ginagawa sa kapakanan ng ating bayan, nakakaapekto, no, sa pamamalakad ng ating business and eventually sa ating mga ekonomiya. Abangan niyo yan sa ating What's Brewing.
At sa atin naman po Espresso Self ay pag-uusapan natin ang mga social projects na patuloy na ginagawa ng Honor 1000 Movement Incorporated sa kapakanan ng women and children. Very inspiring to, Bishop, kasi talagang napakahirap pong maggawa ng mga projects ngayon, especially during the pandemic season when we have financial crisis. So abangan po natin yan at maging bahagi rin po tayo ng magandang proyektong ito. And stay tuned also for our Barista segment. So be with us for 1 hour of informative and inspiring discussions. Ako po si Reza Abante Yebra.
At ako naman si Bishop Ruben Abante. Join us and let's have good talk over good coffee. Welcome to the Lighthouse Cafe. Napakapalad po natin sa episode na ito na ating guest, no, sa Lighthouse Cafe. Walang iba kundi ang Director General mismo ng ARTA, Anti-Red Tape, no, na ahensya na namamahala upang mabawasan ng mga kung ano-anong pasikot-sikot sa ating mga ahensya. And so we welcome sa ating pong episode ngayon ng Lighthouse Cafe si Director General Jeremiah Belhica. Magandang araw sa iyo, DG. DG na lang ang tawag ko.
Magandang araw po, Bishop. Magandang araw, Reza. Sa lahat ng tagapakinig at tagapanood dito sa Lighthouse.
Batang-bata itong DJ na ito.
Oo nga.
Oo. Anyway, magandang pag-uusapan natin kasi napag-usapan nga namin ni Reza DJ na isa sa mga mahalagang mga ahensya ng gobyerno ngayon ay yung tumutulong para paikliin ang mga proseso, lalo na nasa COVID-19 pandemic tayo. No, siguro maaari mong ipaliwanag sa amin o sa ating mga nanonood kung ano talaga ang ARTA. No? Baka akala ARTA para mga artista yata yung mga
red tape, Bishop, kasi I'm sure maraming mga nakanonood sa atin na baka hindi rin aware kung anong ibig sabihin ng red tape and why the need for such an agency.
Yeah, okay. So, ang simulan siguro natin sabihin, ang red tape, sagutin muna natin yung sinabi ni Reza, no? Ang red tape po kasi nanggaling ito sa storya na kung saan ang mga hari nung sinauna ay naglalabas ng kanilang mga edicts at ng mga batas, ng mga regulations, and they bind it through a red ribbon. We call it the red tape. So, sometimes kapag napakadami ng regulations na dumarating, na galing doon sa hari, dumadami yung tape, yung mga ribbons na nakukuha nila. So eventually, as time passed, the word that is used, red tape, was already made synonymous to overregulation, having requirements.
Parang kamag-anak yun yung sinasabing ang utos ng hari hindi mababali kahit na napaka-inconvenient na para sa tao, hindi ba?
Tama po yun, Bishop. Kaya po ngayon, pag sinabi ng red tape, Ibig sabihin yan yung mga polisiya, yan yung mga regulations, yan yung mga requirements, at yan yung mga proseso na pagkahaba-haba at minsan hindi na nangyayari yung intended good that policy really sought for.
Overly protective, hindi ba? Parang ganun,
Na at the end of the day,
But not necessarily na ang ibig sabihin ay may corruption.
Not necessarily, but sabi nga namin, lagi kami nag-uusap ng kapatid ko po, na ang red tape at ang corruption magkapatid. No, magkapatid po yan. Kasi dahil sa
magkapatid nga kayo.
Dahil sa hirap po ng proseso, sa hirap po ng mga requisitos, ay nagkakaroon ho talaga ng pagkakataon na gumawa ng alternative ways of how to get things done. And of course, alternative income which is illegal. Diyan na pumapasok ang fixers at diyan na nangyayari nung nagiging inefficient na yung takbo ng sistema, no? And that's why kauna-unahang pagkakataon na ipasa po itong Republic Act 11032 or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act of 2018, which also created the Anti-Red Tape Authority.
So, basically is hindi ito created ng isang executive order.
Hindi po. It's here to stay. It's really here to stay, and medyo mabigat ho yung pinigay na ipin sa batas po na to at sa maaari hong gawin ng Anti-Red Tape Authority. So basically, yung amin pong mandato at ng batas at ng ARTA ay maika-classify natin sa dalawang general na functions po yan, Bishop and Reza. First is yung tinatawag na empowerment function, which enables ARTA to really help government agencies streamline their processes, to benchmark global practices, to benchmark practices within the country, and just to implement it doon sa iba't ibang mga agencies.
Kakampi nyo ang mga ahensya, hindi nyo sila kalaban, tinutulungan nyo sila.
Totoo po yan. Ang mga agencies, marami na po tayong natulungan na mag-streamline kasi po meron hong ugali na ang mga ahensya dito sa ating bureaucracy, yung tinatawag po na silo system of operations, meaning it's within our country we have many small kingdoms. Kung gaano karami ang departamento, gaano karami ang opisina sa loob ng departamento, they tend to function independently from one another. Hindi sila nag-uusap, hindi nag-sharing ng mga data. So, ang nangyayari po ngayon, it really makes it hard for the transacting public to really finish their documents because kailangan makisama ka sa kada isang ahensya, kada isang opisina.
I imagine you need to change the paradigm nito, Bale, no?
Correct. You have to go from a regulatory-centric mindset to a citizen-centric mindset, and from a culture of distrust to a culture of trust.
Correct.
What happens po kasi
is that DG Maya. Ang sabi ng banal na kasulatan sabi nga ni Apostle Paul hindi lahat ng right expedient.
Yeah.
Tama yun. Hindi lahat ng legal.
Lawful, yes.
No.
Is beneficial. Totoo po yan, or expedient. So, ganun din po yan. Hindi ho lahat ng legal, dapat ho naririyan. So, so what happens now is that, sinasabi ko nga ho lagi is when I'm explaining, there's a culture of distrust sometimes na the government agency does not trust the applicant na magsasabi ng totoo. So in essence, ang gagawin mo yan, magre-require ng napakaraming mga dokumento to assure that you would not defraud the government. But at the same time, the process, of course, the people also lose trust naman dun sa system tsaka dun sa government. So what happens now in the middle, you have this piling up of many requirements and processes, but the problem is the process and the red tape grows, but the issue of trust is not addressed. So kaya nga ho ngayon, with the change of the paradigm, and it has a lot of practical implications and applications when you just change the paradigm na titingnan ho ng mga taong gobyerno na ang taong bayan ang siyang dapat iniisip na hindi ho mahirapan, no?
Pero hindi naman ito
Citizen-centric.
shortcutting, ha? Hindi ito, no?
I mean,
Hindi ito.
dadaan pa rin talaga sa tamang proseso. But I could imagine, DJ, na talagang sobrang challenging yan. Lalo yung sa mga, well, from the side of the agency, when they've been used to that particular processing. And then also, syempre, may mga kalaban ka rin na, those who benefit from it na illegal.
Tsaka isa pa, sila ang pinakabunso ngayon na ahensya.
So, mahirap din to deal with,
Sige, yung mga challenges.
Okay. We have, so nabanggit ko nga po, Bishop tsaka Reza, kasi tama-tama yung tanong mo, Reza, no? That some are really resistant to change for various reasons. One is obviously, mahirap talaga to teach old dogs new tricks, no? If it's really working, if for example for the past 30 years, 40 years, ang trabaho ng isang taong gobyerno is he's been or she's been a regulator all of his life. Yun lang ang alam niya. Basta pahirapan ng mga tao sa panibagong regulation and bahala na kayo mag-comply. But now, you come in, ARTA comes in, this new law comes in and challenges them and tells them.
Dapat ba lahat regulatory?
Of course, hindi po. Isa pa ho yan sa kailangan ho natin i-address. Hindi ho lahat ng government agencies is regulatory in function. Some of them, they are just merely registry. Ibig sabihin, FYI na lang, pwede na. Ibig sabihin, pwede silang manghingi na lang ng mga requirements or mga papel sa ibang mga agencies. Hindi na nila kailangan hingin sa mga tao. So, these are some of the techniques that we are teaching and we are actually kind of imposing already to different government agencies. Pero, yung iba ho kasi talaga, Bishop, tsaka Reza, they have developed this alternative way of doing things, meaning kumikita na rin ng illegal ang iba dyan. So, talagang kahit anong pakita mo na maganda ang proseso, pwede mong improve ang process, pwede mong streamline and automate, kasi nga kumikita dun sa sistema, dun na pumapasok yung corruption. Kaya nga ang ARTA, meron din ho kaming yung enforcement power. We could also crack the whip, meaning we could file cases for suspension, dismissal, and even imprisonment.
That's good. Now, can you cite to us some specific na mga ginawa ninyo, lalo na yung bang naging significant sa kalagitnaan ng ating pandemic ngayon? What would be the programs that you have right now?
We have several. Well, okay. So as I think off the air, I was mentioning that the battle against red tape is always waged at two levels. No, we have to understand that there is an agency level red tape, and we've been doing some programs and projects on an agency level, meaning yung mga serbisyo na pwede mong makuha sa isang ahensya lamang. No, so isa po dyan is yung pag-impose po no tinatawag na 3 days, 7 days, 20 days na processing time sa lahat ng government agency sa buong Pilipinas, pati abroad, as long na ito'y government agency.
So merong kategorya 3, 7, 20.
7 days.
Yes po. So to explain it, lahat ng mga government services ngayon sa atin pong government at bureaucracy should be classified as either simple, complex, or highly technical transactions. So meaning, all government agencies are required na sabihin, lahat ng transaction nyo, kung ito ay ministerial lamang, ito ay simple transaction, 3 days lamang ang processing time. You have to be able to approve it or deny the application. Second is if it entails konting pagsusuri at analysis, it's a complex transaction. But if the application involves public health and public safety matters, then that is a highly technical transaction which entails for 20 days. Failure of the government agency to process within the prescribed processing times would render your applications automatically approved by operation of law.
Oh.
Yan po ang mahalaga dyan. So marami na po tayong na automatic approved from the local government up to the national government agencies.
Yeah.
So,
Siguro,
yeah.
DJ, siguro quick comparison lang, para lang sa ating mga manood. Usually ba yung mga short transactions, before this one, how long does it usually take? If the target now is like 3 days, 7 days, 20 days, gaano ba katagal normally before?
May mga mabibilis naman, Reza, before, no? Pero meron din talaga na hindi talaga gumagalaw. Ang mahirap kasi sa mga transaction, sabi ko nga, mas mabuti na ang isang application na dininay kesa dun sa application na inupuan.
Waiting, I see.
Kasi pag inupuan yung transaction mo, wala kang apila dun eh.
Tama.
So now, because, kaya nga ang sinasabi ko nga sa mga government agency, kung hindi kayo certain dyan sa application nila at duda kayo, dapat dininay nyo na lang. At least alam nung tao kung magre-reapply siya or aapila siya dun sa desisyon ninyo. So, but now, because of this law, all government agencies are required to classify all of their transactions into simple, complex, or highly technical. And not only that, they are also required to have what you call a citizen's charter.
Ako, meron akong highly technical na iniisip ngayon. Kasi kung gaano kabagal yung
I-apply mo
data
ba yan?
ng internet, mas lalong mabagal yung magkaroon tayo ng telco na magkadadagdag ng servisyo.
Sakto po yan,
Kasama
Bishop.
ba yun sa ano nyo?
Sakto po yan,
Covered
Bishop.
ng ARTA?
Covered po yan. In fact, yan po ay yung binanggit ko kanina na agency level red tape. Doon naman sa interagency level na red tape is kapag ibig sabihin nagdikit-dikit na yung mga iba't ibang ahensya and you have to transact with different government agencies, then the red tape actually compounds. So, even if, nakita ho namin dyan, kahit na mag-streamline ang isang ahensya without having a whole of government perspective of all of these agencies, hindi rin maramdaman ng tao ang epekto ng ginawa. So, we came up with this program, what we call Program Nehemiah, the national effort for the harmonization of efficiency measures of interrelated agencies.
Acronym, pakiulit mo. Anong ibig sabihin ng Nehemiah?
National effort for the harmonization of efficient measures of interrelated agencies. Wala hong H.
Magaling. Wala.
So, kakaya kung paano ho si Nehemiah in the Bible, rallied the entire nation to build the walls within 52 days. The vision here is through a whole of nation approach, let us build the walls by streamlining so that we will not be vulnerable to corruption.
Correct.
So isa po dun sa mga program ni Nehemiah po, we identified 5 important sectors na we need to streamline as a sector, no? Isa ho doon sa atin hong napunterya is ito pong common tower o yung telco tower sector po, no? That usually takes about a year or 2 para matapos mo lang ang isang matapos mo lang yung permits na kailangan mo para makatayo ka ng isang tower. Pero ang kailangan ho kasi natin 50,000 towers in order for us to be competitive, to be able to compete sa atin pong ASEAN neighbors. So through this program ni Nehemiah, we were able to streamline what used to be 241 days of application to 16 na lang. 16 days. From 86 requirements, documentary requirements to 35, from sinasabi lang 20 permits or 30 permits to 8 permits na lang po.
It's saving of money.
Yes, that's true.
So by the grace of God, we would also be able to do the same streamlining sa logistics sector, sa socialized housing, sa energy, pati po dun sa food and pharma. And we're almost through dun po sa food and pharma sector na dati umaabot po sila ng 9 months. Ngayon, babagsak na lang po ng 2 days yung kanila pong mga, by the grace of God, pag-pray po natin, you could register already your company from SEC, BIR, SSS, Philippines, Pag-ibig, even to the local government, even to FDA in a short span of 2 days.
So talagang citizen-centric, yung mga ginagawa niyo mga pagbabago through the ARTA?
Opo, kasi I think if we would really apply the mindset po ng Panginoon as the Good Shepherd, nakaisip siya lagi, ang isip niya lagi doon sa kanya pong tupa, sa hindi ho siya nakasentro sa kanyang sarili. So I think that is how we should always see people from government, should really see it in the perspective po of the client-centric or citizens experience. Siguro yun po ang pinakamahalaga pong nadala po na itong bagong batas na ito.
That's very commendable, DG, ha?
Kanina actually, Bishop, nung habang offline yung usapan natin, sabi po nila after this processes, nagkaroon na recognition, tama po ba, pagdating sa ease of doing business in the Philippines. Can you tell us more about it, DG?
Opo, every year the World Bank conducts a survey they call Doing Business Survey, which measures the ease of doing business in 190 economies or 190 countries. The Philippines has consistently have lagged dito sa ranking natin. So last year we jumped 29 notches from 124 to 95 na ngayon. So I think we're now in the highest, we've tied the highest rank natin in the history.
We rose
ng
29, huh?
29 notches po.
29.
Wow.
So now ARTA is the one who is really monitoring the ease of doing business and doing our submissions of the different reforms to the World Bank para makita po natin kung kamusta dito. And hopefully, let's pray that if we improved again our ranking, then we would be experiencing new highs doon po sa ating rankings. And pag-pray po natin, kasi ang aming pong desire is pumasok sa 40th percentile in the ranking before the end of the term po ni Presidente.
Very challenging ang role mo, DG Maya, no? Meron ba mga galit tao sa'yo?
Sigurado po. Sigurado po mayroong Sanbalat tsaka meron pong Tobias.
Totoo yun.
But I Bishop and Reza, I really believe that the Lord has really chosen this time talaga na for us to do these things. It's a time of great change and great shifting, but I do believe that by the grace po ng Panginoon, we would be able to do things despite the oppositions. But I do believe na na sila ho dapat ang matakot kasi liwanag ho tayo kung dilim sila, no? Hindi ho nananalo ang dilim sa light, katulad ho ng Lighthouse.
Alam mo, hindi ako mahihiyang sabihin ito. I've known you many years. Para kayong pamilya ko, no? Kayong mga Belhika. Pero the way you do things now, lalo you are in such a position and you're able to not just perform bilang ahensya ng ARTA, but pave the way for our people and for our country. That's very commendable. The grace of God be upon you.
Thank you po.
And you remember, DG Maya, this program is behind you. Kung ano man ang maaaring ipaalam natin sa ating mga kababayan, para alam nila, lalo na citizen-centric tayo, di ba? Oo. Para sa kapakanan ng lahat, lalo sa kalagitnaan ng pandemic na ito.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Yeah, tama po yun, Bishop. Totoo yan na sa mga nakapanood, hindi lang ho kami magkaibigan ni Bishop, pero kung hindi ho dahil sa kanya, hindi ho ko nakapag-asawa. Siya ho nagkasal sa akin, and ninong ko pa ho. And, pero naniniwala po kasi ako that the greatest challenge that we have, not really challenge, but the mission, I do believe, is really, challenging the mindsets, bringing every thought into submission under the obedience ng Panginoong Jesus. Pero ang sinasabi ho natin dyan is you really need to catch the minds and make people believe that things are getting better. And I do believe that hindi ko man masolusyonan ang problema ng lahat ng mga tao sa ngayon, but if whenever they hear that things are happening, there is a spark of hope that happens to them and makes them want to believe that things are getting better. So I do believe na yan din po ang mahalaga po na gawin natin, tagadala ng mabuting balita. Katulad
Siguro
po.
ang pwede kong tanungin sa iyo is ARTA open to receiving comments or reports
Oh, yeah.
from our people, from citizens?
Definitely po, definitely. Please do, because we often get a lot of mga recommendations, even if meron ho kayong mga ahensya na gusto niyo po naming tingnan
Complaints.
para streamline, no, that's our daily grind. We call agencies always and look at their processes. If you have suggestions, we will invite you and para maibigay niyo po inyong mga suggestions. And for complaints, yes, of course, marami na po kaming nakasuhan din po na mga government official. Yan po, no. So sabihin niyo lang po sa amin, no, kung gusto niyo pong confidential kasi kayo po yung negosyante, we can also do that.
Oh, that is very good. Alam mo, ang dami dapat natin
Very
pag-usapan.
informative actually. Medyo may trivial question nga lang po ako ngayon on DG, no? Kasi right now, everything's moving towards going digital, right? So marami kasing usually pag meron ka mga requirements, you have to like go there physically, apply. Pero na rin po bang ginagawang processing or changes in the processes na, you know, the agencies are going digital para hindi na pumunta yung mga Pilipino doon?
Yes, Teresa. Thank you for the question because very clear ang directive ni Presidente. In fact, nabanggit nga ho kami doon 2 beses. Una, sinabi niya that the ease of doing business is gaining momentum during the SONA, pero at the same time, he directed ARTA, DILG, and DBM to really push for e-governance. And that is exactly where we're heading towards. So when we say e-governance, it simply means government to government connected by electronically, government to citizen connected, and government to businesses and government to employees. So yes, marami na ho tayong ginagawa. In fact, ang ating hong deadline is by 2022 dapat lahat ng local government units is meron ng electronic business one-stop shops. So we are also helping local government units to have the right kind of business one-stop shops. Kasi ho, maraming nagkiklaim na one-stop shops sila, pero meron hong certain principles kasi that has to be there so that it could be one-stop shop. Hindi enough yung pagsama-samahin mo sila sa isang lugar, pero yung proseso nila hindi pa rin maayos, no? So so that's one thing that we've been doing. And number 2, we're also pushing government agencies now to adopt yung digital signatures. Kasi if you have digital signatures, you can issue digital permits, electronic permits. So meaning, kapag tayo pupunta sa airport para sumakay sa ating aeroplano, pinapakita na lang natin ating electronic tickets. So these things, we're really moving fast towards e-commerce. But let me say this, no, very important, kasi may misconception kadalasan ang mga tao that they say that automate natin ang system, may streamline yan. Hindi ho, baliktad. You cannot automate a system without streamlining the process. Why? Because the processes, minsan maraming mga unnecessary requirements, redundant na mga regulations. Pag in-automate mo yan ang hindi mo nilinis yan, papasok sa automation yung red tape.
So, pag basura, i-automate mo, basura lalabas ka dyan.
Exactly po. Exactly, perfect example. So, that's the reason why you really need to streamline and rationalize the system before you automate it.
Very good. I am happy someone is in the government who is saying this.
Pwede ka na mag-open ng business mo shop. Mabilis na siya gawin.
Pero alam mo ito, Reza, kasi it's difficult now. Nakalalagyan natin. Everything's going down. Pati, syempre, no, economy-wise, and in fact, pinagtatalunan ng credit ng ating bansa, di ba? Sa international. Pero kung it would be easier for people to do business here because of this
streamline
processing natin, it will somehow stabilize yung lahat. And so that's good. That's good prospect for us.
Amen po. So yun po ang ating goal, is to make things easy. And we're gaining momentum, and I do believe that as we go faster and faster, we'll be able to accomplish more than what we expect.
Very good. Okay.
Maraming salamat
We
po.
applaud you
Napakaganda.
and the whole ARTA. Napakabilis ng ating oras, DG, DG Maya, but we'll have you again sa ating Lighthouse Cafe. Okay? And the Lord be gracious to you and your team at, I do so believe that we can rise above this thing. The Lord is gracious to us. The Lord will not allow us na dadaan tayo sa ganitong pagsubok kahit sa ating bansa, that His grace will not be sufficient for us. Okay?
Amen.
So, ayun. So, maraming
Maraming
salamat
salamat
sa
po.
Thank you
ha?
po, Bishop. Thank you,
Oo.
Ressa. And
Very good.
thank you very much.
And thank you. Okay, so yan po mga giliw naming mga taga-subaybay ng Lighthouse Cafe. Huwag kayong aalis. Meron pa tayong i-feature sa ating episode na ito.
Mga usaping in, mga paksang trending,
Mga talakayang may kabuluhan.
lifestyle at kultura ang sariling atin.
Buhay Pinoy, pag-usapan natin dito sa
Espresso Self! Antoinette, almost 150 days na ng community quarantine at nakikita natin ang patuloy na pagtaas ng mga cases. At sa patuloy nga na problema na ito ng pandemic ay mayroon din tayong malaking problema sa ating economy.
Tama yan, no, Gabi, dahil ayon nga sa DOLE, hindi imposibleng mawalan ng trabaho ang 10 milyon sa ating mga kababayan sa pagtatapos ng taong 2020. In fact, marami sa mga small and medium businesses ang nakita na natin na nalugi at nagsara.
Kaya naman sa mga panahong ito, mga trying times nga na tinatawag nila, ay isang malaking pagpapala na may mga organization na tumutulong, malaki man or maliit na paraan, upang matulungan ang ating mga kababayan. Nariyan na yan ang Honor 1000 Movement Incorporated.
Yes, at alam mo, Gabi, naging guest na rin natin sila dito sa Espresso Self, I believe, nung season 2. So this time around, alamin naman natin, yes, ang kanilang mga kinakaharap ngayong panahon ng pandemya at ang mga ongoing projects nila na maaari tayong makatulong para sa kapakanan ng women and children. So, to have with us in our virtual Espresso Self interview, we have the Executive Director of Honor 1000 Movement Incorporated, Ms. Flo Abundo. Welcome back, Ms. Flo!
Hello, thank you.
Welcome back,
Hello
Ms.
po.
Flo.
Thank you.
You can just imagine yung interview ka namin, nasa studio pa tayo. Ngayon, we're doing it
Oo nga
virtually.
eh.
But
Yes.
still, big blessing nonetheless to have you here at Espresso Self. Siguro, Antoinette and Ms. Lo, just a bit of a refresher background lang. What is Honor 1000 Movement for our viewers?
Honor 1000 Movement, we are a non-profit organization that seeks to promote child protection, and we seek to address the core issue of human trafficking and cybersex here in the Philippines. So we work in different regions in the Philippines, Manila, Region 3, Region 7, to help poor communities.
Alam mo, Gabi, no, kanina before we were waiting para sa ating shoot tonight, of course, ang topic natin ngayon is about livelihoods. But Miss Flo has been sharing also yung ngayon na situation when it comes to protection of women and children. So, pwede niyo rin pong i-share yon, Miss Flo, yung status siguro ng vulnerable group natin na specifically women and children ngayon na panahon ng pandemic para po sa kaalaman din ng lahat.
Yes, these are very challenging times for us as an organization, very limited resources, but the needs are ever so increasing, no? Lalo na sa issue ng online sexual exploitation of children. Just this March to May, the Department of Justice reported 280,000 cases of OSEC. At kung ikukumpara to last year, this is a 200+% increase in the cases of OSEC. So you can just imagine the effect of this lockdown. As we have mentioned before in our previous interview, we have a shelter, and we needed to adjust a lot of a number of our programs to cater to this increasing need. For example, accepting babies without the moms. That's one of the things we needed to do to accommodate the increasing needs.
So I think under very challenging times indeed. I've heard of companies na nagsara. I've heard of organizations na talagang napilitang mag-close. And I think what I'm hearing now is even dun sa challenge that we're trying to address, parang lumala pa this year like ×3 as mentioned by Ms. Flo. Ms. Flo, ano ba yan? Is that a product of or a consequence of the situation na pandemic and therefore I don't know, medyo na push na sa edge yung mga kababayan natin, or is it a trend? May kinalaman ba yung pandemic and yung challenge that we're facing dito sa nire-report mong figures?
The sad reality about cybersex is that most of the perpetrators are parents. Because of extreme poverty, they sell videos of their children or even live stream sexual videos of their children. And like what you said, yeah, they're pushed over the edge, lalo na ngayong pandemic. With a lot of people losing jobs, definitely there's an effect.
And yun nga, no, it's the reality of this pandemic din, I believe, kasi, di ba, tayo nakikita lang natin every day we see figures sa dashboard ng DOH, ng WHO, and these are health-related. But on the other side, also, ang dami pang ibang sectors. Actually, lahat ng sector ng ating lipunan ay affected. And this one is in the sector ng protection and protection of vulnerable groups. Definitely, sa amin din sa nutrition, affected din yung malnutrition because of poverty. So parang sangay talaga hindi natin pwedeng parang may isang tabi lang na sector when we want to tackle this pandemic. So siguro po we can go now to our yung simula po natin na we want to talk about the livelihoods program ng Honor 1000 movement. So paano naman po ninyo ito? Of course, ito nga po yung problem na because of poverty, some parents are forced to do things sa kanilang mga pamilya, sa kanilang mga anak. So paano po ninyo siya tinatry na i-fill yung gap na yun, yung need na yun po through the livelihoods projects po ng Honor 1000 movement?
Despite lack of resources, and by God's grace, we are continuing with our microfinance program. This helps our communities para makabangon sila, masimulan. Marami sa kanilang mga negosyo ay nagsara during the pandemic. Itong mga small businesses na to, marami sa kanila tinda. So magtitinda sa school, magtitinda sa palengke sa kabilang bayan, magtitinda sa kapitbahay. Because of the pandemic, lahat yon nagsara. So ngayon, we are continuing with that program and helping our clients to bounce back without the pressure of paying their loans agad. We have been giving them allowance for the past month, and even yung simpleng pangangamusta lang sa kanila no, during the pandemic, and assuring them na we are still here to support them and to help them, and we will not remove that commitment to them.
Alam mo, napaka-importante yan, Miss Flo, no? Kasi especially during this time of isolation, yung remote world natin, it's important to have that reminder na may people are still there. You can still connect with them. They still care for you. And I've heard we've heard of cases like big companies losing billions of pesos. Pero actually pinakaunang natamaan, apektado yung small businesses. And for you, for your organization, the Honor 1000 movement, it's just a blessing, or it's amazing how you can still sustain, how you can still move forward given the pandemic. Are there any special siguro blessings or intervention? You mentioned may mga shifts na kayong ginagawa. Anything else na that you see helping you with this endeavor, with this mission sa inyong organization?
Well, one thing, a huge thing is our staff. We had to um, cut back on salaries, but they didn't cut back on their hours. They're on the field. Of course, there are worries that they might get the virus, but they're on the field. They're so committed to our microfinance clients in our shelter. They're there together. Imagine, hindi nila iniwan yung mga bata sa shelter, our staff. They stayed there up to now. Sabi mo nga, mag 150 days na tayo, and they've been together 150 days, and I really appreciate our staff.
So, do you have some of the challenges also? Of course, na yun, nabanggit nyo na po, no, yung cutting back of salary and all that. But maybe, you can also share kung ano pa po yung other challenges maybe on the field that you have faced during this whole lockdown period po.
One of the things that we do is our advocacy work. I think when we had the interview before, we weren't doing this yet. But we started an advocacy work where we go to public schools and teach kids how to be safe online. And of course, because of the pandemic, this had to stop. Na-cancel yung mga klase. So, ang isa sa challenge namin ngayon ay kung paano ma-reach yung mga at-risk communities at maturuan sila how to be safe online. Kasi lahat ngayon nasa Facebook eh. So, we're definitely maximizing social media, Facebook. We made infographics.
Nice.
Nagpapakalat kami ng hotline. Ano ang pwede nilang tawagan in case may masense silang abuse sa mga kapitbahay. Rescue now has been more difficult because everybody's inside their houses and you don't know what's happening inside. So community awareness and community participation, it's very important. Nung nag-GCQ, we tried house to house with PPE and face shield. We tried house to house para ma-reach talaga yung mga pinakasulok at mabigyan sila ng infographics, matrain sila, ano ang gagawin kapag may nasense silang abuse sa mga kapitbahay. But of course, nung MECQ ulit, we had to stop that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we can discuss that, Ms. Lo. A lot of parents are watching right now, even siguro yung mga kids nila. I think it's safe to discuss that. Any general pointers? You mentioned yung how to protect yourself online. Any general pointers that you can share?
Pinakauna ay stranger danger online. Sa pag-ikot namin sa mga public schools, every time pupunta kami sa isang grupo, sa isang classroom, laging merong mag-share na may nag-chat sa kanila online. And malaki ang role ng mga magulang para iwasan yon at para hindi na lumalim yung interaction na yon. So, kapag hindi kilala online, huwag kausapin, huwag i-entertain. At ang lagi naming nire-remind sa mga kabataan, mag-ingat sa mga selfies na pinopost. Hindi lahat ng selfie ay safe. Ang isa sa wino-work on namin ay yung material na tinuturo namin sa mga public schools, gawin siyang worksheet para ma-distribute sa mga nanay. Lahat ng nanay ngayon, teacher na, homeschool di ba? So, ma-distribute yun sa mga nanay para maisama nila sa maybe 2 or 3 lessons, maisama nila sa pag-homeschool sa kanilang mga anak.
Wow, that's very important, Ms. Flo, no? And I think as simple as those two tips na minention mo, stranger danger, at saka yung be
Yeah.
mindful of your selfie. Mahilig pa naman din ako mag-selfie. Antoinette, pero yeah, I think that's important. How can we help, Ms. Flo, and even our viewers? Daming nanonood, I'm sure they want to help. I'm sure they find this relevant. Any means to reach you, Honor 1000?
Yes, we have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/honoreveryone. So you can just go there and just simply by helping us raise awareness is very important. Like what I said, community participation is very important. Kung lahat tayo magtutulungan, marami tayong marirescue. Marami tayong masasagip from abuse. We are also working on a project. It's called, abangan nyo. It's called Likha para sa Bata. So it's our fundraising campaign. We will feature tote bags designed by College of St. Benilde students. They designed tote bags for us. And gagawin yon ng mga girls na nasa shelter namin. Sila yung magtatahi ng bags. Tapos, we will launch the Likha para sa Bata project. So we can sell tote bags and raise funds.
Yan. Napakaganda, no, Gabby? Kasi even at this time, talagang we have organizations like Honor 1000 Movement na patuloy pa rin, microfinance. Definitely, I can imagine yung monitoring yan. Kailangan tutok eh. So talagang yung mga staff nila, kahit na na-cut back yung salary, nandun pa din yung puso, yung commitment for this ministry. And now we have an income generating project na Likha para sa Bata. So maraming salamat po, Miss Flo. Naalala ko yung isang famous phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. Kaya talagang itong pandemic na to, again, hindi naman actually directly, hindi ganun ka-affected ang mga bata nung virus. I mean, onti lang na percentage. But then, sa effects na surrounding the pandemic, nakikita natin ngayon on online sexual exploitation, lalong-lalo na. So definitely, we cannot really parang hindi natin pwedeng isantabi yung ating mga kabataan dito sa ginagawa natin na mga efforts para ma-overcome itong pandemic na ito. So, tulong-tulong talaga, and we can all do this together. Sabi nga. Yan. So, maraming salamat po muli, Miss Flo, at purihin po ang Panginoon sa Honor 1000 Movement.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Flo. I think that these are serious matters, and we thank God that you can continue on, you can press on. During this pandemic, it's easy to give up, it's easy to surrender. But by the grace of God, you're pressing on. Do not be weary in well-doing, but for in due season, you shall reap if you faint not. So God bless Honor 1000 Movement. And thank you very much. For more practical and biblical guidelines, let's now listen to Bishop Ruben in Hebrews.
Welcome to Hebrews. Ito po ang bahagi ng ating Lighthouse Cafe na naglalayo na bigyan daan ang mga katotohanan ng salita ng Diyos, mga prinsipyo sa buhay na magsisilbing gabay po natin sa ating pang-araw-araw na buhay, lalo na sa kalagitnaan ng pandemyang ating nararanasan. I have two sets of verses to share with you today. Ang una po ay masusumpungan doon sa 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 23 and 24, na kung saan ay sinasabi ni Apostol Pablo ay ito: All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. Napakagandang gabay po ito sa atin. Ano po, itong talatang ito. Meron pang isa sa 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 12. At inuulit ni Apostle Paul yung salitang expedient. Ang sabi, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Sa kalagitnaan po ng ating pandemya, ay maraming taong nawawalan. Nawawalan ng mga ari-arian, nawawalan ng mga entitlement sa buhay, nawawalan ng mga karapatan. Kung kaya, ang lahat halos ay nagiging desperado. Lahat ay nagkakaroon ng anxiety at depression sapagkat ito'y panahon ng kawalan. And we tend to be very protective of our own selves. At kapag umiral po iyan, ang mangyayari yun bang every one of us will just seek his own welfare. But, ang sinasabi ng banal na kasulatan is we should know what's expedient. Ibig sabihin ay kapaki-pakinabang, hindi sa isa lang, kundi sa lahat. What things are building up, yung bang nakapagtataguyod ng isang mas magandang lipunan para sa lahat. At alam niyo po tayo, lahat ay may pakabig na tendencies. Kaya ang sabi ni Apostle Paul, but I would not be brought under the power of any. Lalo kapag iniisip po natin that we should be very protective of our own selves. Mahirap maunawaan. Subalit, sa ating pagtawid, sa ating pag-overcome bilang isang bansa, sa pandemyang ito, ay kinakailangan ng pagtutulungan. Hindi po ito magagawa ng isang tao, kundi buong sambayanan. Hindi ito basta sa pamamagitan lamang ng gobyerno. Kinakailangan may pagtutulungan tayo. Hindi lang po ito a matter of health. You see, kaya we should be looking at a wider perspective kung ano ang expedient, meaning profitable, kapaki-pakinabang sa lahat. Lalo na marami na po ang, napakarami ng cases. Noong Marso, we only had a few, pero ngayon, libo-libo na. And beginning June, nung medyo gumaan na ang quarantine, ang number po ng ating COVID cases ay nag-tenfold na and even over. And isipin nyo, nalagpasan na natin ang maraming bansa sa Asia, sa dami ng cases natin. At kapag hindi tayo kikilos bilang isang bansa, all together, kung ang ating concern ay ang atin lang pang sarili, abay, malungkot po ang mangyayari sa atin. So tandaan po natin ito at congratulations sa lahat ng ating mga ahensya ng gobyerno na ginagawang mas madali para sa ating lahat. Yung interview natin sa ARTA, sa pamamagitan ng ating What's Brewing ay napakaganda. 10 na mga iba pang mga grupo sa ating bansa na naglalayo na bigyang tulong ang maraming nangangailangan. Let us not seek just our own wealth, but every man another's wealth. Yan ang sinasabi ng banal na kasulatan. Ulitin ko po, 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 24, let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. And that is from the Word of God. It's all for our well-being, our nation's well-being, our people's well-being. Pagpalain tayo ng ating Panginoon.
Magandang araw po at welcome po sa Barista, ang segment po dito sa Lighthouse Cafe kung saan tinutugunan po namin ang inyong mga legal na katanungan. Ngayon po ay may makakasama po tayo mula po sa finance industry at considering po sa lahat mga pagbabago sa pagpasok po ng tinatawag natin na new normal ay kasama niya ng ilang mga legal na katanungan. So ngayon po ay makakasama po natin si Romel. Romel?
Yes, attorney, magandang araw po sa inyo. Gusto ko lang po sanang itanong regarding po sa ating situation right now because with the crisis that we are facing this time due to COVID-19, many are forced to embrace that what we call new normal. That includes the new setup of working from home for many employees and business people. Attorney, what are the risks that we face in terms of privacy and confidentiality if we share copies of IDs, bank and credit card details through email and other online platforms?
Maganda yung tanong mo, Romel, no? Actually, yan isang reality na unfortunately hindi pa tayo gaanong adept, no, as a nation. Although we already have a number of laws na nag-a-address ng mga issues na yan because even prior to the coronavirus, marami naman na tayong mga transactions na ginagawa online. So, ilan sa mga batas siguro na mare-refer ko dyan would be yung ating Data Privacy Act, Isa pa yung Access Devices Law or yung Republic Act 8484 at yung ating tinatawag na Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Yun naman yung Republic Act 10175. So iba-iba yung ina-address nito, no? Maaring sa atin kasi parang isang transaction lang yung nangyayari, pero bawat aspeto nito, kumbaga may iba-ibang aspeto yung bawat transaction. Nasabi mo yung regarding sa pagbibigay ng mga personal information. Yan ay defined ng Data Privacy Act. So meron tayong mga tinatawag na personal information or yung sensitive personal information. At yan ay dalawang category ng mga information na pagka ibinigay mo sa isang kumpanya or ibinigay mo sa isang tao, ito ay considered na data processing. At dahil yan ay nako-consider na data processing, yung storage niyan, yung handling ng information na yan, yung paggamit ng information na yan ay covered ng Data Privacy Act. Ibig sabihin, kung sino man yung humahawak ng mga information na ito, ay kailangan siguraduhin na ito ay kept in a confidential manner or kept in a way na hindi magkakaroon ng spillage ng information. Ang personal information as defined by law ay any information that could ascertain yung identity ng isang tao. So ito ay maaaring ID, kahit na pangalan lang. So gaya nung tanong mo, no, paano yung mga nagbibigay ka kunwari ng photocopy ng ID mo or scanned copy ng ID mo or image copy ng ID mo, ito ay considered na under data privacy. Now, in order to safeguard naman, for example, for people who would be submitting this information, make sure lang that you engage in a secured environment. So, paano ko masasabi na secured environment? Ensure na the person you're dealing with would be a representative of the company, kung ito man ay isasubmit mo. For example, kung ito ay bangko. Kasi ang common na mga problems ngayon would be yung phishing. So, certain information are actually taken from your computer via a phishing email. So, itong malware or virus na ito would be able to gather some personal information stored in your computer. At ito ay nagagamit nila for credit card fraud, for other mga criminal acts. So, make sure that you are, as much as possible, no, kung pwede sana, when you are transacting online, make sure na the person you're dealing with is an authorized representative of the company. So one way of being able to check that would be yung mga email domain names. So for example, if you're dealing with a particular company, for example, a bank or ano, may mga domain names sila for their emails. Siguro before sending any of the information over the internet, maganda, you could verify either personally or kung hindi man kayo makapag-meet personally, you could verify over the phone just to ensure na ito ay authorized representative of the company before you send any personal information. At maraming mga ano yan, no? So, yung credit card number, for example, date of birth, yun yung mga sensitive na mga personal information. Kahit na yung address, yung mga dependents mo, for example. So, be sure na kumbaga, whenever you transact, try to be as vigilant as possible and make sure na only the relevant information needed for that particular transaction would be divulged. And I understand you're coming from the finance industry, so maraming mga personal information na kinakailangan dyan. For example, yung filling up of forms. So whenever you fill up forms, maganda, for customers, try to make sure na they would, there's a waiver that they actually sign. I know may ano na tayo ngayon, no? There are a number of measures and policies na being drafted now with regards to digital signatures. Kasi maraming form of digital signatures. As in, may digital signature na encrypted, which means walang physical signature pero it's encrypted point-to-point through computers. Meron din naman digital signature as in image signature na inilalagay sa mga documents. So, they're drafting policies right now kung paano yung adoption ng mga ganyang mga measures.
Thank you, Attorney. Follow-up question po, Attorney. Actually, right now we are doing our work from home in regards to our selling job. And as of the moment, inaallow po namin yung mga client namin to submit their supporting documents via email. And of course, through email din yung kanilang confirmation. Attorney, yun po ba ay valid na as proof na sila ay nagbigay ng kanilang affirmation or approval dun sa pagbibigay po nila ng kanilang mga...
Yes. Meron tayong batas na nag-recognize ng mga electronic format of documents. And in evidence, actually, may same weight yan as physical material documents. So for example, can a screenshot of an email be used in evidence? Can a screenshot of an exchange of messages over Viber, for example, be used in evidence? And of course, other social media platforms and yung mga messaging platforms. Yung screenshot ng mga na yan is considered electronic evidence and is admissible as long as you can present the original. So for example, nag-screenshot ka via Messenger. As long as the screenshot can actually be presented in court, then that could be considered evidence. So siguro for both ends, so for our employers or businesses implementing itong mga alternative modes of documentation, and for our customers then, maganda that you keep track. Ibig sabihin, if you can take a screenshot and save a screenshot, if you can secure yung copy ng email and make sure you save it para you can use it for future references for whatever purpose it may serve in the future, then yun yung mga gandang mga safeguard measures for both parties.
Regarding naman po dun sa mga clients or maybe mga kausap po namin na nagdududa or may takot na magbigay ng mga email addresses kasi marami kasi sa mga nakaraan na bigla-bigla na lang nakaka-receive yung mga tao ng mga emails na galing sa mga unknown na person or people. Meron pang violation, attorney, kung may gumamit ng isang email account na walang approval or confirmation from the person who owns it?
Yeah, covered yan ng Cybercrime Prevention Act. No? So any form of fraud or misrepresentation, unauthorized access, yan ay to the extent ng identity theft, pwede yan. No? So naintindihan natin that some people actually are very hesitant. Kaya nga maganda yung may mga tinatawag tayong end-to-end encryption. So magandang alternative siguro ngayon for businesses would be to establish talaga kung paano yung data handling online. Ibig sabihin, as much as possible, we don't maintain communication through individual emails of employees or authorized representatives kasi mahirap i-check yun and it's easier to hack. So mas maganda, the system would be developed by the business itself. Ibig sabihin yung data gathering would be via online forms, for example, na secured talaga ng mga especially for financial services. So if they can come up with a website na nandun talaga yung mga options para alam mo yun, may feeling of security from the client na alam nila that they're dealing with the actual website of the business. And by doing that, alam nila na any mishandling of the information, they can hold the liable. Kasi the problem is, for example, if you're dealing with an authorized representative or a representative, for example, hindi mo alam kung whether authorized or hindi. If you're dealing with a representative and there is a mishandling of the information leaks, the information is misused, the business or the employer can claim na hindi nila liability yon kasi the information was sent to a person which is not an authorized representative. So typically, under normal hindi online, a representative is given a special power of attorney. So ibig sabihin ako, yung agent ko, I give him, he is contracted for a specific purpose. For example, collection of money, collection of information. I know that he is an authorized representative. Any liability, any mishandling of information done by that person is the liability of the employer or the business. Pero pag online, na hindi mo nakikita kung authorized siya. Ibig sabihin, wala kang nakikitang special power of attorney, wala kang nakikitang contract. Medyo mahirap talaga magtiwala. So, I guess for businesses, as we move towards this, what we call new normal, maganda yung mga businesses would also establish safeguards. Yun nga, yung talagang yung processing of information would be done via their own websites.
Thank you, Attorney.
Salamat, Romel, sa mga tanong na yan. No? Salamat din sa lahat
you.
ng ating mga nanonood. Kung kayo po ay may mga legal na katanungan, maaari po kayong magpadala ng inyo pong mga liham sa goodtalks@lighthousecafetv.com at maaari rin po kayong mag-message sa aming Facebook page, Lighthouse Cafe. Maraming salamat po. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Muli po, ako si Attorney Moses Rivera at your service.
We come to close again this episode of Lighthouse Cafe and thank you for having joined us sa episode na ito, no? At sana naging pakinabang ang inyong mga napanood, ano po, at tatanganan natin, no, towards our rising up sa pandemyang ito.
And you can watch a replay of our episodes. Pwede po kayong manood yan sa ating YouTube channel, Lighthouse BBC. Hanapin nyo lamang po ang Lighthouse Cafe. And we are also in our Lighthouse Spectrum mobile app, so you can download for free ang app na to sa Google Play Store and App Store. And of course, we're also showing live, Bishop, every time sa ating Lighthouse BBC Facebook page.
Yes, so sundan niyo yan. Ano po, at manatili kayo, no? At next week again sa isa pang episode ng Lighthouse Cafe,
where good talks happen.